And that's why they call it Black Friday. What's going on, everybody? This is the Coverbandconfidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
If we play our cards right, this should drop on Thanksgiving evening. So unless
Sweet.
you are, chronically online, you can use this as your soundtrack to stepping on old ladies to get TVs at stores on Friday morning.
Yeah, great. Do it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going good. It's been quiet. I've been working on, I finally got all of the parts of my rig that I need to test the quad cortex and send a video of its failure back home to Neural DSP. And in fact, I plugged it all in and it did exactly what it did on stage. The failure mode was still present, which is good news, I guess. I don't know what it is. I don't know. And I sent them that video and they said, yeah, gosh, you're going to have to ship it home to us. So I'll be doing that. And that does mean I am going to need for sure to pick up. There are listeners who will say, Dan, you needed this anyway, but I'm now clear I'm going to need some kind of small rig that is a backup or may inevitably become the number one rig. And I'm super torn. There are all kinds of, if I go with the Headrush core, it's got the vocal things. I could replace my TC Helicon. If I don't, then is it the Headrush just dropped a three switches in a expression pedal unit that's the same size as the Pod Go and the HX10 from Boss, and how do those all compare? And very undecided about what I'm going to do with there. There is a Black Friday on for the Headrushes right now, $100 off of that. That core brings it down to I think $599. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't have any band gigs booked until March, so I have time to sort it out.
That's fair. That's a tough one because in this scenario, it's not just like I've got to fix this issue, but you have to kind of like jump ship into another ecosystem.
Yeah. I mean, Pod Go is closer to Helix, where I've lived forever, but the layout of it's different, the architecture of it's different. It's not really the same. Probably the Boss is actually probably closer to what a real Helix does in terms of its patch architecture.
That's fair.
And the Headrush too. Yeah, so it's a big change. I will surely use it as an opportunity to learn about a vendor I don't use, or the slimmed down version of one that I know really well. We'll see.
Fair enough. It's not an enviable position to be in.
Right. Yeah.
But you do it's kind of it's a mixed bag because the world is your oyster. There's a lot of options out there.
And I do like buying new things.
It's true.
Oh, well, I don't like buying them. I like having them.
Yeah. Lots to think about. In my world, other than the Wing, there's no new things, but basically every single software based thing that I own has been firmware updated in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So, I updated the HX Stomp to the latest firmware there, added a bunch of really cool amps. The Bogner Ecstasy has been a lot of fun. I posted a couple of demos of that online. There's also two different channels of the 5150 that I haven't futzed with at all. Pretty excited about checking those out. Also, Maestro DMX dropped the latest firmware for their hardware.
Yep.
And it's got some really cool features. Yeah. The big thing is what they're calling effects palettes, which is basically the ability to set up static positions for things like your movers.
Yeah.
So you can set it to have your movers point to the wedding cake at the ceremony, or all the way up, all the way down,
in front of the lead mic or something. Yeah.
Right. 100%. And those are instantly recallable. You can also set them to kind of trigger when certain components of the song kick in.
Yep.
I went through and watched the announcement, and there's a lot of really cool stuff there. The other thing is that once you install this update, all future updates can be done over the air, which is very cool.
Yeah.
Both the Wing and the Maestro need to be updated. But finding a flash drive that's FAT32 formatted to load those things onto has been more of a challenge than I was anticipating. So I haven't been able to do that. I have to go to the store and buy one tomorrow.
Yeah. I will say the other thing that's in the Maestro DMX firmware is they expanded their MIDI implementation by
Mhm.
quite a lot. It was a
Yeah.
really slim kind of an afterthought in previous releases, and they did a very nice job of expanding some things. They're still using notes to trigger things rather than patch changes, which is a bummer. But it is what it is. Every MIDI system should be able to send notes just as well as PCs. So,
Yep.
the beauty of that effect palette thing is that I can trigger it from automation out of Band Helper,
Yep.
right? So if I got it set up, I could do effects that are timed to moments of songs,
Right.
um, straight out of Band Helper wirelessly. It's
Yep.
super cool.
The fact that they did that, they also added OSC
Yes,
integration,
yes,
which is kind of like the next step up from MIDI. It gives you the ability to basically create your own custom interfaces, which is pretty rad. I don't have a direct use for that right now, but when I was talking with the folks at Limbic, who the folks that make the Maestro,
yeah.
there's talk about adding ArtNet,
Hmm.
which is basically like network DMX,
Mhm.
which would be for some folks, if depending on the kind of software you use, that could be a very big deal. And I feel like OSC is kind of like the bridge between those two things.
Hmm.
And so I'm optimistic that that will that'll open up some other things. And I had mentioned this in the Patreon Slack. I added the Dante card from my X32 to the internal slot on the Wing, and just like that, I've got 64 more channels of I/O. Uh, that's pretty wild to think about on top of all the other stuff that it does. That was a
Yeah.
really cool thing. And it was a bit of a challenge. It wasn't very straightforward. Luckily, Christian, who's one of our new production friends, uses the Wing and like knows it inside and out and helped me get it installed and get the Wing to recognize it and all that jazz. So the plan is for us to meet up hopefully on Wednesday for me to hand it off and for them to finalize the build, and then we will have the whole getup ready to go.
Awesome.
So we've got, 2 racks with this new mixer and all of our new doodads, and we'll be off to the races.
It's amazing.
Super excited about that.
At some point, we're gonna have to have a Sell Dan a Wing episode, because I know there are a lot of people out there looking at it and wondering how it is, and I'm certainly looking at it and wondering how it is. So once you've got some,
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we weren't in the sell Dan a floor modeler,
well, yeah,
we could
Dan,
have done it this week.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So let's pick one crisis at a time.
Fair. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Speaking of crises, you don't have one next week because we've had a lot of folks reach out about doing the co-host thing,
We
and
have,
and
we
you,
have. I have picked, and I've not yet told the person I picked, so I don't want to say it just here yet. Although it'll be settled by the time this drops. Lots of really good topics. Actually, those of you who submitted, none of them were bad topics. We will
yep,
probably circle back and bring some people on to talk about some of those things down the road. But I think you're going to enjoy the one that we're going to talk about next week. It's something we've definitely touched on, but we haven't really dug into. So I'm excited to talk.
I had big plans for the things I wanted to do when I was over in the UK, and a lot of that fell through just because of the timing part of the year. It's kind of hard to make contacts. The last thing I was like, oh, I should see if I can make it to Andertons. And then I did the mapping. And so Andertons is located in Surrey, which is actually south of London.
Uh,
So if I'm in, if we're talking about like geography, I'm in Northumbria, which is,
yeah,
upper middle
right.
United Kingdom. That is a very far away. And we only stay the night in London one night.
Mm,
And I don't think Amber's going to be on board with like, hey, let's just take the train to Surrey
sure.
so I can go to this place. Besides, I ran into the captain and chappers at NAM. So I'll just see them in January, if nothing
Perfect.
else.
Yeah, good.
So there's that. As far as other housekeeping stuff, I did drop the first impressions for the Wing on YouTube. It's doing very well. It's probably by the time you hear this, it'll be over 1,000 hits and a lot of questions, a lot of answers, and yeah, it's been very cool. Beyond that, the Patreon gifting thing, I went ahead and set up an ad so folks can check that out. Maybe if you follow us, you might have been exposed to that on socials, but just wanted to make sure that everybody knew about it because I think it's a really cool opportunity to do that. And no feedback on the gift guide, so we'll probably not do it.
Yeah. Yeah. We've done it both a positive and negative gift. We've done the don't gift these things guide. I don't know. How many years can you do that?
It's fair. And I will say this, there have been a lot of really cool suggestions from listeners that have mentioned cool things. And it may not be an entire episode's worth of content, but we'll probably drop those links at some point because
Sure.
there's, I would say, more than 3, less than 7 that are out there
Okay.
that are worth talking about. I don't know. Pretty much it as far as housekeeping goes. This week's topic, we're going to go ahead and kind of tie it in with the review because it all kind of works together. This literally came in today. This was something that was submitted through the Coverbandconfidential web form. And it was one of those topics that was just too good to pass up. And so I immediately emailed them back and was like, hey, if you can provide the additional information, we will talk about it this week on the show. And shout out to David, who reached out in the first place and was very, quick to provide all this additional information. So the TLDR of this is we're going to do a Setlist Doctor episode. Now, we've done this on a couple of different occasions. We've done Setlist Doctor 90s band. We've done Setlist Doctor Top 40 band. This is Setlist Doctor variety band.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's these guys are trying to accomplish the same thing that I do, which is really broad range of very eclectic favorites that you jump between, and lurch decades at a time and catch people off guard with them. It's a move I know very, very well.
And I will most certainly be leaning on you on this episode to make sure that the right level of perspective is provided.
Yeah,
Because
and listen, one of the things what he sent us is a song list. It's not in any particular order, and I don't think
right.
we're going to try and order them here in this. I think we're going to kind of go through some of the song list and say yeah, say nah, give suggestions, that sort of things.
I feel like we could at minimum, like once we get through the songs that we think are worth are should be in the set, determine whether they're a first set or a second set kind of thing. Like I think we could give them kind of like a loose structure.
Yeah, all right, sure.
I think that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah,
But
fine.
let's go ahead and let's get into the meat of this. So once again, David was the gentleman who reached out, and his email goes a little something like this. He said, "Thanks for the quick response. Really enjoy the podcast. It provides a ton of useful insights and food for thought." So there's your review.
Thanks. Great.
Our band, Better Than Bad, you can find them at Better Than Bad TX on Instagram and Facebook. Came together in Austin, Texas a little over a year ago in a Rock Band 101 program for adults at the music school our kids were in. So it's kind of a reverse rock band.
Yeah,
You do the rock band for the kiddos, but the parents can get into it also. Very good marketing on
School of
this
Dad
music
Rock.
school,
Yeah,
for sure. After getting a taste of playing on stage, we were hooked, and we spent the next several months working up enough songs to let us fill a 3-hour time slot, then found a friendly venue that was willing to give us a shot. And this is what we've arrived at. And for the most part, we try to get as close as we can to what these songs sound like on the record. And they provided us a list of roughly 50 songs.
yep.
And then it says, we built our song list from songs we liked and thought we could perform, reflecting the varied taste of everyone in the band, but without trying to define a specific identity or niche.
All right. So let's just pause right there because we've already got a little trouble.
Yep.
And I recognize this trouble. I have played songs that I liked because I liked them, and it doesn't tend to go great. It tends to be, if any feedback happens on it, it's somebody saying, "Hey, what was that? What was that? What was that thing you did right before Come Together?" Whatever.
Yeah.
I know the poll. I see some songs on this list that I have done because I liked them. And I'll just warn you that is really not the criterion for adding a song. Like them and think you could perform them. You can perform anything. Don't have that be a criterion. Get yourself up to the level of performing the song. Don't have your performance ability dictate the song to you. But also don't be going by your taste because you're not your audience.
Yeah. And to kind of zoom out, the issue is we pick songs we like.
Right.
And we've mentioned this on multiple episodes, but musicians are not the target audience
right.
for a cover band. the audience as the target audience. And the sensibilities and taste of musicians is not what the normal run of the mill, bar patron, restaurant attendee, customer, patron, whatever is into. And so you can get yourself in a lot of trouble and spend a lot of time and energy going into a lane or a kind of music that ultimately does not benefit you business wise.
For sure.
That being said, there's a bunch of bangers in this list. Like
Oh
there's
yeah.
there's there's plenty to work with. But I think it's important to note when you're in the conceptualization kind of stage of your project, going with here's what we like is just the wrong posture, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
So the intent here is we're going to go through the list and kind of talk through. Now, before we started the episode, Dan and I were like, all right, here's songs that we've done before. And then there's also ones like the issue that you run into is whether something is a little too deep of a cut. You want to make sure that things are familiar enough where like maybe you can pleasantly surprise somebody, but it's not like I've never heard the song before to like just the casual music consumer.
Right. No, listen, a deep cut needs to be still a hit, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be my best moments are when I start a song and the room goes because they haven't heard that since they were 18. Like
Right.
that's the biggest possible win. And so if you had to own the album, probably it's not one to play. Right?
Correct.
Even if it was your favorite song on the album, and the lead singles never did it for you, you should still consider playing the lead singles.
Yeah. So we may not go through the entire list because it would just take too long. But why don't we start with the bangers, the things that are absolute yeses, no hesitation.
Sure.
Off the cuff, what were the ones that jumped out at you as absolute hard yeses?
Well, first song on the list here is "Could You Be Loved" Bob Marley. I've never done that one, but it's a great tune and people dig it. I think that one's a keeper.
Yep.
No Roots crushes every time we do it. Psycho Killer
Mhm.
crushes every time we do it. Let's see. Black Horse and the Cherry Tree. I have a personal loathing of that song, but just because it got overplayed a lot. But I can see you get in a room going, "Woo!" You'll definitely get
Sure.
some uptake on that one. Come Together, we do all the time. That one's definitely a winner. I've done Gold on the Ceiling. It's great by the Black Keys.
Yep.
Yep. I've done Sympathy for the Devil. That one's really fun to play, and people get into it.
That's another one of those woo woo.
Yeah.
And maybe, hey, maybe you take Black Horse Cherry Tree and tag it.
Mash them. Oh.
Well, because you got the woohoo, and then you got a woo woo. They're kind of
they're wooey.
Just throwing that out there. That was just off the dome.
Yeah, I like it. They're doing Clint Eastwood, Gorillas, which I've never done, but
that's a cool idea.
That's a cool idea. We do Take Me Out, Franz Ferdinand. That one kills. I have in the past done Season of the Witch by Donovan, which you wouldn't. It's kind of weird, but people groove on it. It's very, very groovy.
Well, and I'll throw it out there. The Agatha All Along, the new Marvel series on Disney
use
Plus.
that song. Yeah,
they did, and it's it was a fantastic series. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, amazing! Yeah. We do Give Me One Reason with Tracy Chapman. That one is a little bit fillery, if I'm honest, but people still kind of groove to it. Let's see. Hard to Handle by Black Crowes always goes over.
Yep.
What's Up, Four Non Blondes is like you must not play that one.
Yeah.
I Want You to Want Me. Now he's citing Letters to Cleo instead of Cheap Trick, but I don't, if that's a cover of a cover, I don't know it.
Yeah, it was their take on it, and I'm seeing a lot of female fronted stuff, so I'm thinking that they've got a female.
They must have a female vocalist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the ones that jump out me as like, yep, obviously for sure that.
Here's some ones that I feel like you missed, or at least ones that jumped out at me that I thought were good. All Lips Are Sealed by the Go-Go's. We used to do that one. People seem to like it. We ended up switching over to We Got the Beat because energy was just a bit higher and it's got more of like some energy behind it. Let's see here. Spiderweb's No Doubt. That's a good one.
Yeah.
People really dig that. Gold in the Ceiling. Cool track. I Love Rock and Roll. Joan Jett.
Yeah.
That's always a crush. Are You Gonna Go My Way? Lenny Kravitz. Always gonna crush. People love that song. 99 Red Balloons is a bit of a mixed bag. Now we do the Goldfinger version of that one, which gives it a little more like oomph, where it does the kind of like the turnaround in the chorus part.
Hmm.
So it's do 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 do. They kind of like retard the gang gung gung gang gung gung ba boom ba doom diddle doom.
Huh.
It gives it kind of a bit of a bounce to it. It's a lot of fun. Where's my mind? Pixies. I think that's a cool. I feel like that's probably the deepest cut you're gonna want to take.
Yeah.
Like most people know that song whether they think they do or not.
I don't think I do, but I bet I do.
Okay. Just What I Need, The Cars. That's another one that's
Yep.
pretty easy to jump into. Even better than The Real Thing, U2, high energy, cool, cool cut. I don't know if it's necessarily the U2 song to pick.
Yeah.
If I was thinking about that kind of like energy, that kind of space, I feel like New Year's Day is a better choice because it's kind of as far as like energy goes and like familiarity, it's kind of in the same lane.
Yep.
But that's just kind of that's a personal take.
There are several places in here where there's a song by a group where I'm thinking that's not the one I'd do by that group. I want to do something by that group, but that's not the track.
I would agree that that's probably the case with the U2 one. Ain't It
Yeah,
Fun, Paramore? People love that song.
for
It
sure,
always crushes.
for sure.
Weirdly enough, in a room that is ethnically diverse, that song
Huh.
is consistently good.
All right.
There's a thing in internet culture where Haley Williams is claimed by all parties. She's got very much a gospel kind of side to her.
Fair.
And yeah, so anything Paramore is going to win, but Ain't It Fun specifically is a winner on its face.
Yeah.
Devil Inside in Excess, tried it, never really quite worked out.
Now again, that's one where I would do New Sensation, maybe.
Yep, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Werewolves of London gives you the ability to mix in that Kid Rock song if you really want to go that way. I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah. Well, or Sweet Home Alabama. I mean,
Sure, but don't.
don't
Uh,
yeah do either of those.
Call Me Blondie is
That's a great tune.
badass.
Yeah, that's a great tune.
We've never done it. We do one way or another, but I don't think that's a bad call. I think
Nope.
if you can do it, do it. The middle crushes every single time. Should I Say Should I Go is probably the Clash song you would do.
Yep.
Are You Gonna Be My Girl? Usually pretty fun. Pump It Up, Elvis Costello. Personally, love that song.
Yep.
The
Yep.
only thing I'll say about that song is it's got to be in the right place because it's a pogo song,
Yeah.
and if people aren't pogoing, you can't dance to it.
Right. And this is the song when I think of songs that I really wanted to play, so I put them on my set list and it was a flop. This is the one. This is my one. I really love this song. I really wanted to play it. All that sort of super hip Elvis Costello-iness in it. Loved it. The bass intro, loved it. But I never was able to find a place in a set list that it worked.
So I was in a band called T Rocks, Tyrannosaurus Rocks, uh,
Excellent.
and we did it in the first set, like probably less than 5 songs in, and it
Oh,
worked.
yeah?
No, it worked. That was the right place for it to go
Okay.
because it kind of gave people the ability to like kind of move, maybe kind of stand up and kind of nod to the beat. That's
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know in the back half, not even the back half, the last set of this flagpole set of Harvey Danger banger. Do it.
Sure. Totally.
Animal Neon Trees
I
always worked.
Yeah, I really want to cover that one. I've never even tried it, but I dig that tune.
What was the other song that we did of theirs? Oh, Everybody Talks was the one that we did, but
Oh, sure.
Animal was, yeah, very much.
Yeah.
I think again they fill the same spot energy wise in a
Mhm.
set, so I think either one of those would work. Uh, American Girl, killer.
Yep.
Last Night Strokes, killer. I think that those are all great choices. The thing that I think you need to kind of focus on as a band is where are you going? How do you take the songs that you've picked and make them do a thing? How do you make the night move?
Hmm.
That's what this is. You're working on your night moves.
Yeah.
Night Moves is the name of this episode.
It is, and that's the song that's missing, clearly.
I don't know if that's the song that's
No,
missing.
it's not. It's not. I do it acoustic, and it's fun,
Yeah.
and I lean into it. Woke last night to the sound of thunder. Alvaro.
I did have a band where we
That
did Hollywood Nights. It was bananas. It was
Yeah.
a silly song to do, But in the right place, in the right with the right crowd, that song was just dynamite. It was so
Yeah.
much fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are, I think, keepers.
Yeah. Reading through the end of the email, they said some early feedback was that people liked that we were not playing the same songs that everybody else does. But a recent comment you guys made in the podcast about playing songs people might remember from hearing on the radio sometime, not moving the crowd, hitting home. So I'm interested in your thoughts about what we said. So I think we did a good job of
Yeah.
drilling down to what those might be.
Yeah. Glad we made you think there when we said that, because there are a few here that just I don't pick
Well,
them.
no, I think it's important to call out the too deep of a cut
Yeah.
out of this list. The Groom's Still Waiting at the Altar, Bob Dylan,
Nah.
probably not. Backwater Meat Puppets, probably not.
Yeah.
Hazy Shade of Winter is like not even the fifth Bengals
No.
song I would pick.
No. No. Although if you can pull off the harmonies, it's pretty cool.
Sure.
But yeah, still,
Don't Stop, Color on the Walls, Foster the People. You're going to
it's
do
not.
Pumped Up Kicks,
You
or you're
can do
not going
pumped
to
up
do
kicks,
Foster the
but
People.
most of the time you shouldn't do pumped up kicks.
Right.
So that's a tough one.
Same thing. They picked Who Will Be the Next in Line by the Kinks. Again, not like top
Not the
5
Kinks
Kinks
song.
songs.
No, no. I'll say this: you said just what I needed by the Cars is an easy one to pick up. There's actually some tricky business in that one.
Well, no, I just saying it's a good choice.
It is a good choice. Yeah, yeah,
It's a
yeah.
wide enough net that people are going to resonate with it. There were some other deeper cuts. Moving down the list, Do I Want to Know? Arctic Monkeys, not going to be the Arctic Monkeys song I would pick.
No, no. There are 2 tracks on here by ZZ Ward, who I don't even know who that is. Do you?
Nope.
So this is clearly a band favorite artist, and God love it. I don't mean to tell you that you shouldn't do stuff by your favorite pet artists, but I don't know. I don't know. You should think hard about whether your crowd's going to care.
Yeah, and I do recognize that this is kind of like a market to market deal. There are bands that would never in a million years pick up Copperhead Road, but you and I would,
Yes.
you know? So there are kind of like regional hits that are worth looking at. Like in our market, doing Driving and Crying, Honeysuckle Blue, or Fly Me Courageous, like anybody outside of the Atlanta area is probably like, nope, I've never heard that, or it wouldn't move the room, but
We're
here it will.
Yeah, we're still Wagon Wheel up here.
Yeah. My Morning Jacket, again, it's a
Steve,
very specific lane of folks that are into My Morning Jacket. They're probably not going to cover band gigs. The Beths, I
same.
don't know who that is. Never
Yeah,
heard of them.
right.
And maybe we're just, we're letting our ignorance show.
It's
Uh,
entirely possible we're out of touch. I know for a
sure.
fact that I'm out of touch, but your audience is going to be out of touch too. They're not as cool as you, so
Yeah.
you need to dumb these down a little bit.
Yeah. And there were a couple that were kind of like in the middle.
Yep.
Cannonball by the Breeders probably would work, but I feel like if you're trying to do angsty 90s stuff, I don't know if Cannonball is going to be the one that I would pick.
Yeah.
You could do a whole song. You could do another Breeders song for that matter. I just don't know if Cannonball is the one.
Yep. In terms of Beatles tunes on here, Come Together, Keep It, always,
Yep.
always a killer. The other one's on here is Oh Darling, which is you've clearly chosen it with. They played it ironically. You've chosen it ironically. That wouldn't be the choice I'd make.
Yeah. So the way that you need to kind of think about these is if you play this song, will people go get a drink or go sit down
Right.
or go to the bathroom?
Right.
And there are a few of them on this list that are probably those songs. Like a good example of that is Criminal, Fiona Apple. Cool song. Love that song. But if I was at a show and let's say you played Pump It Up and I was up there and I was
Into
like
it.
vibing to that and then you played Criminal, I would go sit down.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, and listen, there are set list shaping reasons why you might want a song like that at a certain point. That's valid, right?
Sure.
It's a down energy, and sometimes you need that in the shape of the set list. That's all
Right.
fine, but you need to be cognizant of what each song is going to do to the room. And I think Criminal's not at all too deep a cut for somebody to try to cover, but it's going to have an energy impact that you got to be responsible for.
And kind of on the same note, talking through songs that kind of have that same energy kind of drop. Angel from Montgomery by Susan Tedeschi, fantastic song. Like, in the right place, it can bring the house down, but in the wrong place, it can clear the house out.
Well, it's a slow, sad, classic, amazing song. And by the way, that's
Beautiful
one that you
song.
you need to be really informed about the history of that song to play that well. I think you got to know the John Prine. I think you got to know the what's her name, Bonnie Raitt. Bonnie Raitt
Yeah.
did sort of the canonical cover of it. It was a John Prine tune originally, and you know, if you go back through the famous, this is very much one to listen to the covers of and be informed by the takes people have made on it. Um, I'm not saying not to do it, but maybe it's one of those ones you do acoustic while everyone is taking a break. Could be.
To me, I feel like there's like 3 or 4 different shows worth of material here.
Yeah, yeah, and I love you know, as I said at the beginning, my show is designed to be eclectic and to jump around a lot. So I really appreciate the degree to which this is doing that. I think it nails that brief really, really well. But you got to keep it in the, you know, it was at least on the Billboard charts for a week sort of
Yeah.
category. There's plenty of material that's in that category.
The way I kind of think about this is that like each one of there's a couple of like specific choices on this list that are kind of like Lord of the Rings style. Like depending on which song you start with, you can kind of go on a path that takes you towards other songs,
Yep.
and maybe it gets you where you want to go, but it's not necessarily the end all be all. So if you start with Angel from Montgomery and you look through the other songs in the list, you could probably find another handful that are in that same vein
Yep.
that you could use to do like a super chill cocktail hour or wallpaper style
Yeah.
set.
Yeah.
And if you start with Pump It Up, there's 5 to 10 songs that kind of give you that kind of upbeat, dancey, high energy kind of thing.
Yep.
Or if you start with a Black Keys tune, there's a fair amount of those that you can kind of go down that path for. So, you know, when you're dealing with this wide of a swath of material, you really have to be intentional about what the purpose of the show is going to be.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
then you take whatever cues you can take from your master list and try to find things that kind of vibe with those kind of core songs.
For sure. Different venues and different organizations of the group call for different or well give you different opportunities. You know, when I'm doing a solo acoustic show and I'm not the focus of attention, I'll go deep. I'll go into weird stuff. Some of my favorites come out of me. Tea in the Sahara by the Police, right? I'm never going to cover that in any other context, but I love doing it acoustic when I'm just filling space in a room. That's great. There's no song on this list that is wrong for 100% of context. There is a context for every single one of these.
Sure.
But if it's, we got our first gig at a venue, we got 3 hours to fill, going to really crush it. There's some of these you want to think are probably not the right tunes.
Correct. And you know, if we're talking about a full band, yeah, there's a bunch of these that they're not going to tell the story that you want to tell.
Right.
Because I think a lot of bands who are in this kind of space are trying to tell the audience that we're clever. We've got good taste.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
things that other bands don't do.
That's right.
But and listen, I have been in that headspace. I have occupied that mentality, and I have been humbled over and
Yeah.
over again because frankly, there's no accounting for taste. And ultimately the widest net is the thing that you've got to appeal to. And so, you know, some deep cut that you think is being clever is going to clear your dance floor out, and you may never get it back.
Right.
And a song choice can be a make or break situation in something like this. And if you are just getting started and you don't have any sort of reputation and you're still trying to get your feet under you, those choices can be devastating to your reputation. You have got to be very, very careful about the way that you pitch your shows and the way that you present yourself, especially in this season of the project.
By the way, if you find yourself on stage having in the middle of a song that is not having the impact that you want on the room, this is one place where not being on tracks is a big advantage because you can just bail early. You can just, I'm jumping straight to the last verse and chorus. Let's get out.
But be aware of those things. So, if you listen to this episode and you go, these guys don't know nothing, just make sure that when you're working your way through that first set, that you're making notes of this one crushed, this one didn't, this one we should never do again, this one we should do every single show.
Yep.
Just kind of keep a mental tab of the things that worked and things that didn't. And you can apply the Wang Chung rule if you want to, but I would say that for some of these, I think it's a one and done kind of situation. And listen, we may be completely out of line, and you play these deep cuts and you're in the right market and everybody loves it, and you are the smartest folks in the room. And if that's the case, send us an email. I will eat these words. I will admit that I'm wrong.
Yep.
Tomorrow.
Yep.
But I've done this long enough to know that some things they're just not going to work consistently.
Yeah.
In most situations. Take what you will.
Exactly. And good luck. It's an amazing thing. Your first gig, your first few gigs, like, God, it's just like being on a tightrope, and it's amazing. It's the most amazing experience. Getting to the end of it, no matter how it went, is exhilarating. And boy, I kind of envy a band having its first few gigs because it's great.
Yeah, you get to spend that time like finding out about, the sensibilities of your players and, the stuff that people kind of resonate with and what you find is fun or funny, and you get those inside jokes and all that stuff. Like that energy, that electricity is special. It's something that is a lot of fun.
For sure.
So David and the folks in Better Than Bad, I'm hoping that that's a reference to Log from Ren and Stimpy.
I want it to be, yeah.
It could be a bit of a, attracting a negativity bias, but again, we'll take a clever reference.
Sure.
I'm totally on board with it.
Better than bad. It's actually
better.
Good. Like, it's better than bad. It's good.
Yeah. Everyone wants a log.
Everyone needs a log.
Come on and get your log.
Here you go.
By Blamo. Doodle-dee-dee-dee. They probably did not use that as the reference, and we're just being crazy people.
I want them to have used that as the reference. If they didn't, they should now.
It's good for a snack if it's in your back. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. This is a lot of fun. The Setlist Doctor format is something that we do definitely enjoy. And frankly, I am a bit envious of bands like this because I don't get to do that.
Right.
I'm in a prison of my own making.
Yeah.
I've got DeLoreans here. I've got DeLoreans there. I've got hoverboards. Like, I am trapped in a prison of mixtapes and and the sort of thing. So, any negativity you might be getting off of me is just me being envious of your ability to play things outside of your, of my wheelhouse, I guess. But I honestly, I think there's so much there that you guys are going to crush it.
Oh yeah.
Without a doubt. So thank you all for tuning in. Couldn't do this without you. If you are trying to get into this, community, we've had a bunch of folks hop in the past few weeks. Send the link to friends and family to hop on this annual Patreon gift deal so you can get in this in the Slack and just start getting this kind of stuff out of the community. Honestly, I mean, the thing that makes the show what it is you guys. And, we have become facilitators of great ideas that other people have come up with. And I don't even think we take credit for it anymore. That's not really what that's about. But, the only thing we can say is like, well, we started it.
True.
we started it.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
If you'd like to support the show, you can do that a number of ways, but I'll go ahead and call it for this week. In Atlanta, Georgia, I am Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You have been listening to the Coverbandconfidential podcast for the week of November 29th, 2024. Turkey lurkey doo!